After a whole lot of confusion last year about the dates of the two-pot system that was changed a few times, it was finally settled on being implemented on the 1st of September this year. And I think the confusion also led to a bit of misinformation. So a little bit of confusion that's running around in the industry. And I've got Mr. Avishal Seeth, who's the head of retirement consulting at Alexforbes, joining me today to just help clarify some of these issues and just kind of set us on the right path. Avishal, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Let's maybe start at the beginning and just give us a bit of a rundown on a bit of the history of two pots. Where does it come from? What is it intended to do, and how is it going to work in practice?
Thanks, Chris. So the question is, why has Treasury made these changes to retirement fund rules? And there's two main reasons, basically. The most important reason is to actually increase the retirement income that members receive when they retire. And that happens through the compulsory preservation part of two-pot. And then the second reason, important in the South African context, is to help members get through financial challenges that may happen before retirement age. And this is the so-called savings pot, or early access to retirement fund contributions, effective from 1 September. I think if we go back to COVID, it was very clear that members needed access to their funds as emergency savings because they weren't getting paid as much. A lot of them were getting paid a lot less than their full salary through COVID. We understand that. And they needed money just for emergency purposes, to put food on the table, to pay for school fees, to pay rent, loans, those kinds of things. And that's where the need was really identified in terms of this two-pot retirement system going forward. I think that it's the right thing for South Africans. It's definitely something that we fully support. It's something that industry as a whole has been pushing for a long time, specifically the compulsory preservation of the retirement pot side of contributions. And I do believe, and we believe we've done the modeling, that in the long term, this will improve retirement outcomes to even threefold in the long term, which is something that South Africa desperately needs.
100%. From my understanding, it will involve creating these different pots, as you explained. But all of that sounds a little bit complicated. Are administrators, especially from a systems capability perspective, I suppose, number one, and number two, when the claims and things start coming in on the 1st of September and people want to claim some of their benefits, will people be able, administrators in particular, be able to handle the kind of volumes, that we're expecting at the time?
That's a great question. I think to answer it, I'll start by explaining what is the two-pot system, because that'll tell you what administrators need to actually do on their systems. So from 1 September 2024, any new retirement savings or retirement contributions you make will be split into two new pots for your retirement. 2/3, it's about 67%, will automatically go into what we call your retirement pot. 1/3, about 33%, automatically goes into your savings pot. You must use your retirement pot to set up a retirement income. So there's no withdrawals allowed from your retirement pot. You can withdraw from your savings pot once a tax year, only if you need to. So we believe that it should be used as an emergency savings kind of tool. All of your existing contributions or savings in your retirement fund, your retirement savings up to 31 August 2024, and any investment growth on those savings will not be affected by the new rules, except for what we call the seeding capital. And the seeding capital is a portion from your existing savings that on 1 September 2024 will be transferred into your savings pot. Now that amount is expected to be about 10% of your existing savings, 10% limited to 30,000 Rand. That's very important. And you'll be able to withdraw that money in your savings account once every tax year if it's more than 2,000 Rand. Very important again is you will pay tax on any cash that you withdraw from your retirement fund. In terms of what administrators will have to do, there's extensive development on the administration systems that administrators have to do. The development on the IT side, on the administration systems, lots of development, lots of expenses that they're going to incur on the development and ongoing maintenance of their admin systems. In addition, there's going to be lots of communication that's required to members of retirement funds to get the right information to them, to make sure that they have the right information on hand to make good financial decisions. For members that want to access this come 1 September, and we can't be naive about this, the current financial stresses on members in South Africa are at all-time highs. We've got high levels of unemployment. We've got high levels of indebtedness. We've got high interest rates. And we've got extremely low GDP growth into the future. And if you put those things together in any environment, it's a recipe for disaster. So we can't be naive. Members do require emergency access to their savings. And come 1 September, we do expect quite a large proportion of members to try and access some of this emergency savings or the savings pot. From an administration perspective, in order to actually gear up for this large volume of withdrawals that we expect come 1 September, we need to kind of push for automation. So at Alexforbes, we're pushing for automation, digital usage. Members can actually use self-service through our app, through our WhatsApp portals, and then also increase capacity in call centers, which is what we've done, because lots of members will be phoning in to determine if they do qualify for withdrawals from their savings pot. And then finally, increased access or increased number of walk-in centers for members to go in and ask the question, because there is a segment of the membership that is not au fait with digital tools, kind of apps, those kinds of things. So it is a challenge from an administration perspective. We always aim to be ready from 1 March, which was the initial date that was provided. So we'll definitely be ready 1 September. But there's lots of work, lots of development, lots of additional resourcing required in order to implement this appropriately.
100%. If you can, maybe you talk about the large volumes that we're expecting. Just touch on the investment side for me as well, because obviously that will mean quite a big demand on liquidity. So I think funds need to obviously make sure that they don't dip into long-term assets. How do the asset managers plan to handle that kind of dynamic?
I think it's important for each fund to do the investigation around liquidity requirements. The work that we've done around our default portfolios within our Alexforbes retirement fund, which is our umbrella fund, and Alexforbes Access Fund, we have enough liquidity in the system not to change any of the investment structures, luckily. There may be challenges for funds that are based mostly on guaranteed portfolios, as an example, liquidity constraints. The key for me is that no member should be penalized if they invested in a guaranteed fund. And I think that's the kind of narrative that's been coming out from a lot of the providers that have guaranteed funds in place, which is good to know. Overall, I don't think that there's going to be a massive liquidity crunch come 1 September 2024, which is absolutely important. If there's a liquidity crunch, it could collapse the entire retirement funding system, given the structural changes in the investment portfolios that would need to happen.
Fair enough. We've spoken about the readiness of industry, but let's just step a little bit beyond that and talk about SARS readiness, because they're involved in this chain of events, and so is the FSCA in terms of changing the rules. I know there's been some recent movement on that. If you can just comment on both those for me as well, please.
Sure. From the FSCA side, they recently released kind of expectations or criteria for rule amendments. We know that every single retirement fund is going to have to submit rule amendments to the FSCA for approval, so that the funds can comply with this two-pot legislation when it does come into effect, and that includes participating employers of umbrella funds. So the FSCA is expecting thousands and thousands of rule amendments to go through to them, and that's why it's important that they've communicated with industry now, when they have to kind of lay out the criteria, what they expect from rule amendments. Communication is absolutely critical, as they've outlined in their communication to us. And then there's also an option where providers can apply for extension for the rule amendments for obvious reasons, because the FSCA will be inundated with thousands and thousands of rule amendments. So we're happy that the FSCA is being proactive and communicating. And we will continue to engage with the FSCA, having been the largest provider of retirement fund administration services in the country. We need to make sure that it's right. We can't allow for things like rule amendments to delay access for the members that need access to the money. SARS, on the other hand, we are awaiting communication from SARS as to how they expect to deal with the high volumes of withdrawals that we expect. For every withdrawal, every member that withdraws, SARS will have to issue a tax directive. Now, they're going, like all of us, they're going to see volumes that they have never seen related to withdrawals from retirement funds. So I'm hoping that they do communicate soon around how they will deal with handing out a directive on every single withdrawal request that comes through. We haven't received anything as yet, but SARS has gone very automated. SARS has updated their systems. We've seen how well they've actually been administering the tax kind of collection over the recent past, and I'm hopeful that we'll get some communication from them soon that will give us comfort around the processes of actually issuing tax directive for these withdrawals.
100% got you. Yeah, I think communication is crucial to this whole thing. And obviously we will, from an EBNet perspective as well as Pensions World, our magazine, try and keep people updated as to developments happening. But I believe there's also a very useful tool that Alexforbes has created. Just talk to us about that as well, please.
Thanks, Chris. So, yeah, what happened was we actually noticed that a lot of our members were coming forward and showing us these WhatsApp chain messages around two-pot and when it comes into effect and how much money they'll be able to access. Unfortunately, a lot of those messages, these chain messages that you keep on forwarding on, the information was incorrect. So there was misinformation around the inception date. There was misinformation around the quantum of money that you'll be able to access, those kinds of things. So what we've done is we've built basically a repository of easy to understand information around general financial education, but we've got two-pot as a specific kind of topic on our website. And this website is not just open to members of Alexforbes retirement funds, it's open to anybody in South Africa. And we encourage all South Africans to go to this website for the latest, up-to-date, trustworthy information around two-pot and other financial education matters. And the name of the website is mymoneymatters.alexforbes.com. And we just felt that as a significant stakeholder within the system, it's our responsibility, and we believe it's the industry's responsibility and trustees' responsibility and ManCo members' responsibility and even employees' responsibility to make sure that members are getting the right information around two-pot. Two-pot is the biggest fundamental shift in the retirement funding mechanism in this country, and we need to do everything in our power to make this shift make this transition as easy as possible, as seamless as possible for our membership. Because if we can do that and get this right, then we can build trust in the system, and it's critical that there's trust in this important system in South Africa.
100%. Look, I think it sounds like we've all got a lot of work on our plate for this coming period. Across the board from all stakeholders' sides. So, Avishal, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. No doubt we're going to be speaking a lot about this topic in the next couple of months as we move closer to the implementation date. And I really look forward to getting regular updates from you guys and sharing this with the public.
Thanks so much for your time, Chris. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Take care.